Mayor Wright,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Here.
Councilmember Krupa,
Here.
Councilmember Meyer,
Here.
Councilmember Percival.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now if you'll stand for the invocation given by Brian Hawkins, the Interfaith Council, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Percival.
If we can all bow our heads. Scripture says if we seek God first, He will give us everything that we ask for. So, Father, we pray in this hour for unity and humility. Father, we pray for our differences. For in our differences coming together, we can make a difference. Lord, I pray right now for each and every council member represented here. I pray, Father, for integrity and wisdom as you continue to guide them. Father, I pray for every opportunity that we have here to come together to talk about the greater good of this soil, of this city. And if we turn from our selfish ways, Father, that you will begin to heal this land. So, Lord, I pray, Father, that each and every person come here with an agenda to move this city forward, this great city that you have planted here and put each and every leader here in this place. I pray for every officer that is represented here, Father. I pray for every badge-carrying person, every first responder, Father. I pray for every heart that is represented, every business, every leader, every community person in this place. I pray, God, that when they leave from here, that they leave satisfied knowing that their voices was heard. And I pray that this is not just a meeting, but this is a beacon to move forward, a hope in this city to begin to heal each and every part of the Hemet area. And we give you the praise, the honor, and the glory. And we thank you. Amen.
You could please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated.
City Attorney, would you report out of closed session, please?
I'd be happy to do that, Mayor. In the 6 o'clock session, the council had 4 closed session items. The first item was a public employee performance evaluation, interim city manager. Second ones had to do the same thing with the city attorney. The council began those discussions, but has decided to continue those to a future date at a special meeting to have more time for those items. The other 2 items, one was a conference with legal counsel with regard to one item of existing litigation. Had a briefing from city attorney with regard to the pending case and gave direction. Otherwise, there was no reportable action. You also had a meeting with your labor negotiator with regard to the labor groups mentioned. There was no reportable action from that item. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Before we go to communications from the public, I have 2 proclamations to present, and I'd like the entire council to assist with that as well. Oh, we do? Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, I guess we're going to have to add that to the agenda first, because it's not on the agenda. Okay, with that.
So these are ceremonial items. You're not actually voting or taking any action, but it would require a vote of the council to add them to your agenda. So
Sure.
if we could have a motion to add them and then a vote.
So moved. Second. All those in favor? And that is approved, 5-0. Okay, now if everybody will join me in the presentations. And the first one we'll do is to the, since I don't have it on the agenda, firefighters. You can just come right up here. proclamation regarding National Fallen Firefighters 2019. Whereas the United States Congress and the President of the United States have designated the day of January National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Service as a day to honor firefighters and emergency services. I don't know why I run out of breath when I do these things. Personnel who have sacrificed their lives to save others by lowering the American flag on all federal buildings to half staff. And whereas an average of 80 firefighters courageously make the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty each year. And whereas a firefighter and emergency services personnel play an essential role in the protection of lives and property in our local community, and the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Service marks the beginning of the annual Fire Prevention Week observance, and whereas it is of major importance that we increase our efforts to reduce deaths, injuries, and property losses from fire, and whereas organizations in the City of Hemet are respectfully encouraged to remember fire and emergency personnel who made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community by participating in Bells Across America for fallen firefighters. And whereas the community can participate in Bells Across America by tolling a bell, pausing for a moment of silence, or reading a special passage in honor of the sacrifices made by the fallen firefighters and their families. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Hemet now call upon all citizens and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the day of October 6, 2019 in recognition of the patriotic service and dedicated efforts of our fire and emergency services personnel by lowering American flags on all buildings to have staff. We encourage appropriate services and ceremonies in which all of our citizens may participate to honor fire and emergency service personnel, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to duties have rendered invaluable service to our community and its citizens. Dated October 8th. So we thank you all for your service and certainly honor those international firefighters.
Mayor, may I have my shop introduce the crews?
Sure.
So this is the crew from Engine 1 and from our medic squad, Medic 1. Captain Kurt Halleck, Engineer Mike Anaya, Firefighter Taylor Barnes, Firefighter Mike Jones, and Firefighter Daniel Baldwin. Picture? Yeah, well, you guys want to come take a picture? Yeah. Right center here.
Now, if I could have the water professionals up here. Professional.
One.
You got one,
Where
two.
we had early days, we've got a lot of people probably already asleep ready for 4 and 5 a.m. tomorrow. So, Mayor, this is Mr. Michael Heffley, our water superintendent, and his wonderful wife Tracy. Who puts up with my phone calls after hours all the time.
Okay. Proclamation to the water professionals in regards to the Water Professionals Appreciation Week 2019. Whereas water is the lifeblood of California, and without safe and reliable water, no community and no sector of the economy, from high-tech to manufacturing to agriculture, can thrive or expand. And whereas as a result of the highly skilled California water professionals who have dedicated themselves to advancing the systems and technology of water treatment, California drinking water and treated wastewater meet some of the most stringent water quality standards in the nation. And whereas regardless of where our drinking water originates, it is filtered, cleaned, tested, and distributed in a process carefully managed by trained water professionals. And whereas California is steadily expanding the reuse of treated wastewater and pioneering the use of advanced purified recycled water to replenish aquifers, prevent seawater intrusion, and improve local water and water supply reliability. Whereas according to the Public Policy Institute of California, local public water and wastewater agencies invest more than $25 billion a year on local water-related programs and projects that protect public health and the environment, improve local water supply reliability, replenish and clean up groundwater basins, provide water for fire protection and protect against floods. And whereas thousands of water, wastewater, and recycled water industry professionals in the state are dedicated their careers to keeping drinking water, recycled water, and treated wastewater safe and reliable for the use by Californians. And whereas water professionals at local public water and wastewater agencies work 24/7 to plan for the future, maintain and upgrade their systems, and improve the safety and resiliency of local water supplies for their communities. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Hemet do hereby proclaim October 5th through the 13th, 2019, as Water Professionals Appreciation Week, and extend sincere gratitude and appreciation to the water and wastewater professionals who work 24/7 to provide excellent service to the Hemet community every single day.
Yes, they do that.
And very much appreciated. You know how difficult it is these days. So, pictures, you guys?
That's down just right behind my tall
Hello. I didn't get the back. I'm sorry.
Oh, gosh. Well, you thank you so much. Hey, thank you.
Must miss the chair. That would have been. Okay. Item 5, communications from the public. Anyone who wishes to speak during the public comment on a particular item will be required to fill out a speaker slip. There's a 3-minute per person time limit for all comments, including public or quasi-judicial hearings. Written comments on any item may be submitted to the clerk to be included in the meeting record. It will not be read aloud by the city clerk, but it will be inserted in the minutes. All who wish to speak, including council members, staff, need to be recognized first, and members of the public must comply with the adopted rules of decorum. And if you will make sure you have your cell phones muted or on vibrate, that would be great. City Clerk, do you have any requests to speak?
Yes, Mayor, there are 4 requests to speak. The first is Tammy Podomsky, followed by Debbie Vena.
Good evening. I wanted to thank you for taking the time to hear my concerns. From the last meeting when we were speaking about the Knox boxes, I learned from Chief Brown that in order to pay for them, that there was this account set up where if there was a delay in safety response time, the medical company, AMR, paid into this account. And then we're going to turn, and that seemed like a really good idea, but what concerns me is that then we turn around and they didn't proactively fix the problem about having delays by purchasing their own Knox boxes, but then our cash-strapped city turns around and gives them back the money. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I do appreciate the sincerity. I'm sure it was well-intentioned by Chief Brown. There's a problem. He doesn't want to wait for politics, procedure. Lives are at stake. We all want people to feel safe in their home, and that includes having emergency responders gain quick access. I understand that. However, I just wonder if they even realize that the process has been circumvented. Number one, AMR should have, when they received the first penalty, they should have proactively gone about reducing their times themselves. Number two, now they're getting Knox boxes purchased for them. And then again, I'm wondering, this is a billion-dollar company, as Carly had said, that is depending upon our generosity to speed up their performance response times. So there's something wrong with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Becky?
I'm here tonight because Councilman Brown asked me to follow up with what happened on Friday at the Water Academy. But first I want to invite you all. The last Sunday of the month, I'm going to be doing a public speaking at my church on human trafficking. I'd love for you to all attend. And it's taken me a long time to get to where I can come up here and do this kind of stuff. A lot of it has to do with, I used to have my tears, I used to follow my tears. And in following that, I became really passionate about learning about water. So that's why I was at the Water Academy on Friday. I don't work with water, but I'm very, very interested in it. And I found it very interesting that California really likes borders. It's an administrative necessity, and they discuss that for probably 2 hours out of the day about all the water districts and how all the administrative agencies have their little areas that they are responsible for. But I found it really disconcerting that they don't really talk much about outside of their district. Our local district, EMWD, does an awesome job, I think, especially with the recycling and reclaimed water and where we're moving in the future with that. I found that in my own personal journey and as an environmentalist and studying the sciences of water and especially endocrine disruptors, and as we talked about with the recycling issues about how plastic breaks down into the environment, I found it really scary that the March Air Force Base actually has wells on it that have been shut down, and our EMWD is getting reimbursed by the federal government right now so that they can implement filtration, something to take the chemicals out. And the state of California doesn't even really know where this is going to go yet because they don't know what endocrine disruptors do and they can't pinpoint where it's coming from. Anyway, so that was a big thing. And it does relate to a project that I think can be an economic engine for this valley. My background has certification as a GIS database expert, which is what I was doing with my science stuff. I really want to create jobs in this valley, and I think I can do that. I love the Salt Creek stuff that happened with the board trails out there. And as I've talked with Michael and Linda's heard me talk at Rotary, the project I want to do here on the other side of the valley can connect Western Science Academy with something I want to do out there. That if y'all help me and get support, maybe we can create a lot of jobs. So thank you very much, and hopefully I can see you come out Sunday.
What church?
Universalist Unitarian is on Main Street. It's really close to the Saboba, and it's only like 15 minutes, really small. It's not just like what happened on Florida, but it's all labor trafficking in general, and so thank you. Oh, I did ask them to bring you bottles.
Oh.
Our next speaker is Judith McPherson, followed by Scott Garrett, who is the last speaker.
I got it low tonight. Hello, my name is Judith McPherson. I reside outside of city limits in the unincorporated area, but my family does own property in the downtown area. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Lopez, you and your staff, I think particularly Nelson Miller. I don't know if he's here. He was here earlier. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Okay. For being very accommodating in helping us get off the ground our first downtown farmers market. As you know, Patricia Yepremian and her husband Crecor had one for some years on over on behind the library. Okay, and she was very helpful in helping us procure some vendors. And the event was pretty successful, I think, for those who were there. And thank you, Councilmember Meyer, for stopping by. I didn't get to see you that day. My son saw you. And Captain Brock brought his bulldog, and I saw him with a big bag of vegetables. The produce lady had the most beautiful produce you would ever see. Vine-ripened tomatoes, Blue Lake green beans, every kind of power kale. I mean, it was awesome. But anyway, Captain Brock made some salsa, I think, or something like that. Yeah, and it was good. So, but it was pretty successful. We had Rocky Sharp out there. You know, the drummer is a custodian at my school, and he stopped by to pick up some folding chairs. When I told my class that he was a drummer in a rock band, he said, no, not a rock band, a rock blues band. But then he played some music and did some music and sang to my class for a while and took the chairs and left. But it was a very, very good day. The tamale guys sold out. I don't know. We had close to 30 vendors, and they all want to come back, and more wanting to add on. So hoping that it brought some livelihood to downtown. Okay, thank you.
I was out of town, so I didn't get there. Where are you located?
On the southwest corner of Florida and Harvard. Okay, where the old bank building, Shooters, and my son set up the event so that the vendors were really happy. They could park their car right next to their pop-up. They didn't have to walk a great distance. And so we used a good portion of our parking lot and then somewhere on the lawn and within the private property part along Florida. And it was really, really awesome. There were tie-dye T-shirts, soap like you wouldn't believe. This woman makes soap from the goats that she raises, goat's milk soap, and I mean, it was something else. It was
Judy, will that be every Saturday?
Every Saturday
For this time?
from 8 until noon, but I think we're looking at changing the timing. Some people wanted to have it go later.
Okay.
I see the red light. I'm sorry.
That's all right. We're asking questions. You're okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And possibly some people suggested Sundays, like once a month on a Sunday, because that's when people are out.
Well,
But
thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Okay. And thank you.
Mr. Garrett.
My name is Scott Garrett. I own an empty lot on Kimball Avenue, in between State
Did
and
you say
IS.
Kimball?
Kimball. It's in between 105 West Kimball and 127 West Kimball. It doesn't have an address. But it's zoned R1. I guess it got zoned R1 in the latest downtown plan, but it's got 200-year-old apartments on either side of it. And I'd like to do something with it, but R1 doesn't make sense, and I'm wondering whether the city could look at it and whether I have to initiate a zone change, or maybe when they go through the process every once in a while of cleaning things up, it maybe could be looked at and,
Well, you probably have to initiate the process. So if you'll do that,
I see.
city will look at it.
Yeah, Nelson or Sarah could provide the gentleman with the correct contact for staff. We'll go ahead and follow up with you, sir.
Okay. And since I noticed on the agenda, and I can't get here very often because of my work, but it's always in the future about opportunities for downtown something. Could I get on a list in case in the future ever happens and they discuss it or something like that?
Sure.
I mean, because otherwise it's
Are you talking about the opportunity zones?
something. Well, it's on there as a future item.
Okay, right, okay, sure.
Okay. Thank
We'll
you.
put you on a distribution list.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
We do have one more request to speak. It's Moises Salazar.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor and Councilmen and Councilwomen. My name is Moises Salazar. I am currently a graduate MBA student at UCR, but I come here not really on my own merit. Although my family does own a business here in Hemet, we are local business owners, and we have been here in the Valley for over a decade, and we love this place, the city. But I come here not really on my own merit. Rather, I come here on behalf of my church, the Light of the World Church, to let you, men and women, know that we are here in Hemet. The Light of the World Church is present in all 50 states of the USA, and also in more than 56 countries. And we believe that a good Christian is also a good citizen. Therefore, the church does encourage its members to be active members within their cities, within their communities. Thus, we have done a lot of outreach work, volunteer work in different spaces, in different cities. And here, specifically in Hemet, we have volunteered at senior facilities. We have taken our church choir to sing to the seniors. Many of them, they cry because they haven't felt that joy in many years. We have gone also to the local VFW post here in San Jacinto, 3366, to also aid and volunteer. We helped also clean up their memorial. We have also gone to the vendors market as well by their invitation. To also participate, of course, in this valley. We have also gone to the local Valley Restart Shelter. We have also helped there with the funds from the church. We have gone there to provide a breakfast, to also restore some of their grounds, since and we have just tried we have tried to just show this positive attitude and positive change towards Hemet and San Jacinto. And I just wanted to bring this attention of the church to you folks, of the church, the Light of the World. If you folks need any help or support throughout the valley in any social work that we can do, I am here. My phone number is on the list. Again, my name is Moises Salazar, and also, well, again, on a side note, I am a graduate MBA student from UCR. If you folks need anything, I'll be more than glad to assist, or have my church group assist.
Thank you
That
so
is
much.
all. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. God bless. Thank you.
Is that the last speaker?
Yes, Mayor, that's the last speaker.
Okay. Move on to item 6, number 6, receive and file. Can I have a motion to receive and file for the warrant register? So moved. Please vote. And that motion passes 5-0. Item 7, consent calendar. Consent calendar items will be acted upon by one single action of the city council unless otherwise requested by an individual council member for separate consideration. Are there any members of the council that would like to pull any of the consent items?
Yes. I guess by pulling 7D, it effectually pulls E and DE, because I want to talk about all of them.
Okay.
All the way through
F.
And then I want to pull H.
D, D, E, 7D, E, F, and H, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anybody else?
That covers most, doesn't it?
Okay, with that, may I have a motion to accept or approve items 7A, B, C, G.
Second.
Yeah, G. Okay, please vote. We have a first and a second. And that passes by 5-0. Thank you. Item 7D, in connection with E and F.
Yes, and on all of those dealing with McSweeney Farm CIP out there, what I really wanted was to make sure that conceptually people knew what was happening. So I had asked the city manager to give me some maps, and I'm hoping we have them up there because I was confused in just reading the narrative about exactly where the streets were as far as McSweeney Parkway, and then where north of 1,000 feet north of this, and then south of this, and then traffic signals. And we really need to have a conceptual map of where all of these improvements are going to be made.
So, thank you, council member. And just by way of background, you'll recall in March, the council did adopt a resolution that essentially had the city staff preparing the bid documents for these 3 CIPs in the McSweeney project area. So what we have is we've, with Steve Lariso's help, developed a few maps that show the locations of the projects that are before you tonight. And so with that being said, I'll go ahead and let Steve provide that information to the council and everybody else.
Yeah. And then point out where the wash is also.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. So there is 3 projects set up. As you identified, there is 4 items on the agenda that were pulled to discuss. 7D was for the construction management contract, and then the other 3 were for the different phases of the project. The first item, or the first one you see, is Phase 1 punch list items. The wash that I believe you're asking about is Cactus Valley Wash?
Cactus Valley Wash.
So that is right through here. And let me identify. This is the north. Out this way is to the west, where Diamond Valley Lake. Here down below is the east. I just put it this way to make it a little easier to look at. So the improvements that are associated with this first phase of the project is the primary ones are the 2 traffic signals, one at South Village Loop and one at McSweeney Parkway, both at State Street. And then there's also some additional street improvements along State Street as part of this project. Along Newport, there's some additional road improvements, primarily on the north side to finish out the completion of that. And there's also pavement repair within South Village Loop. Most of that's already been recently paved, but there's some stuff that has to be done up there. And then the next one, the next phase is Phase 2, and the primary work associated with this is, again, here's the wash for reference purposes. To the north is on the right. This crossing right here, if you recall, it's currently basically sunk. The road crossing it was originally supposed to go across the wash, but right now it goes in the wash. This project, Phase 2, will actually construct the culvert crossing there, as well as complete the road across that culvert to get over here to the clubhouse. There's also some additional improvements on McSweeney Parkway to go along with this. The third phase is the State Street crossing. And again, just for reference, north is to the right. Here's the wash. And this is the crossing that is part of this project. There's some additional improvements along State Street just south of there and just north, as well as some wash improvements. But it's primarily the identical fixes that are happening at McSweeney Parkway in the prior phase. Construction of a concrete culvert to allow the water to flow below there from the Cactus Valley Wash out into this area.
On that then flows onto Metropolitan's land, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
How does it then get over to Salt Creek Channel, or does it?
Not as part of any of this development. It's basically being dispersed out into that MWD land.
We have the easement, or their
The developer is working on the easement as we speak.
All right.
Because until they obtain that easement,
Yes.
this will be stopped over here.
Okay. That's all I wanted, and I wanted to make sure people in the public knew what was going on out there. And this is all in anticipation of phase 2 and 3 and 4 of McSweeney Farms housing project.
Correct. In fact, there's been a number of interests placed with the planning department into starting construction out there, but they're still a ways away before they get to that point.
Okay. That's all I want.
Okay, good. I did have a little concern about the construction management item, and that is that there was such a huge difference between, I know it's not a huge contract to begin with, but there was such a big difference between the highest and lowest bidder. I wondered, have we worked with KOA before? KOA, whatever it is.
Within the city of Hemet, I am not aware of anything. However, I personally have worked in a number of agencies where KOA has provided CM and inspection services, as well as design services.
Okay.
They are a pretty reputable firm. They've been around for a while, a mixture of different firms that have been merged together.
I don't know, just always leery, so that I don't expect to see change orders.
Well, and also if I could just add too that when we're dealing with professional services,
Yeah.
it's a little different when we than a construction bid, because
Yeah.
we don't award to the lowest bidder, and that is the key to remember. And there's negotiations that go on with the different various consultants that do propose. This just so happened to be the lowest
Yeah,
price
okay.
received.
I guess that's why I'm surprised by the big difference. Hey, I'm always glad to see a lower amount, that's for sure. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So with that, I will move approval of all of those items except H.
Second.
Please vote. Oh, that's not a no. It is a yes.
Like a no, Bonnie.
It's a yes. If you do it again, it's a yes. For the record, that was approved 5-0.
Oh, okay. I'm ready for the next one.
You can make votes again.
You want us to vote again?
It has to be. I just suggested to Carly that we all vote no.
And that was approved, 5-0. Okay.
Okay,
Item-
and this I just, want
7H,
the
right?
explanation on what we're doing and how we're doing it and what it's going to do for us so that we're spending $800,000 and we need to get some bang for our buck.
Definitely. This is the city's used the West Covina service group for its computer-aided dispatch and records keeping for about 8 years. We've converted originally from a locally hosted solution, and part of the reason for leaving our locally hosted solution was, it just had become such an antique that it wouldn't keep up to the standards that we have, that DOJ and FBI and all the others require us to keep, as far as reporting and things like that. One of the reasons why we're kind of going with a new solution here was the planned obsolescence of West Covina's original solution that they provided us. That solution couldn't be upgraded, similar to what we had before, and it couldn't meet the future and the current security and technical requirements also by FBI, DOJ, and the others. So what we wound up doing on this one is we have gone to West Covina. West Covina said that they were going to work with us and get a new solution that would be provided to all of the replacement, or all the member agencies, and those include not only Hemet, but it's Alhambra, Montclair, Pasadena, Porterville, San Marino, Tracy, and Tustin. And what they've done here is we're signing an agreement with Mark 43, which is a cloud-hosted solution that will keep our dispatching our records and replace the existing system that West Covina currently has. The agreement in front of you tonight is a 3-year agreement between the City of Hemet, West Covina, and Mark 43. The city will pay our current obligations with West Covina on our current West Covina software, which is $114,000. That's what we owe for this year, this fiscal year. Part of this also includes the $174,000 within the same fiscal year for implementation costs of the Mark 43 system. That takes all of the software and everything that Mark 43 will provide, implement it, take our data, import everything in, and get us a working product. Then next fiscal year, starting next fiscal year, we will start in utilizing that new system, and it will be a 3-year commitment at the $171,300 or $311.
Any other questions?
With this system, the other thing is that we're doing that 3-year commitment. During that 3-year commitment time, both fire and police will be allowed to kind of review the system and make sure that it's up to their standards. And if it's not, then at that time we could definitely look at something else.
So this seems that, things like this are like a never-ending process. We no sooner get things in place and on a roll, and then they change something and you're starting from scratch again, and it's just the name of the game. I mean, everybody has to go through it and everybody has to accommodate it, but when you talk about these software programs, inevitably they'll do something to change it so you can't use what you've got.
Definitely, and usually it revolves around some kind of a security requirement or reporting requirement.
Well, and today the security issues are huge, so thank you for all your due diligence. Anybody else have any?
I have a question, and I guess I didn't ask you this, Chris, but our police and fire chief, I mean, it doesn't say anything about their recommendations, and everybody's all on board with this?
So Scott has been working with public safety as it comes to this, correct, Scott? Can you describe some of the work that's been done before it got to this point?
Certainly, and I'd call up Glenn Brock, who did more of the work on that than myself, and he would probably have a little bit more of a police perspective to that.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, thanks for giving me the opportunity. So we've known this has been coming for a little while. West Covina informed us last fiscal year that their product was going into life. They're a public agency enterprise that just didn't have the resources to keep it up with current trends and technology. At that point, we started looking what was out there. What are other agencies using? What are other agencies paying? We actually ran into Mark 43 on accident at a convention. They came in and demoed, not knowing that ultimately they were going to partner with West Covina. And our police officers, support staff, members from the fire department saw the demo and were blown away by the advances that this platform gives us. As we moved forward, we got contacted by West Covina and said, hey, we're going to partner with Mark 43. We've got some technology that they don't have, and the partnership just works really well. The other thing that this will give us is also by January 2021, we're required to go to a new reporting standard for our crime reporting. FBI works on UCR reporting. Every agency in California will be required to go to NIBRS effective January 1st, 2021. West Covina cannot do that. They were not going to be able to do that. Mark 43 already does it for other agencies. So we've been very impressed by the platform.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got. Cybersecurity is at the forefront of all of this. Do we know, and I know that some cities have been hacked with some ransomware, do we know if this is going to protect that and prevent that from happening?
The solution that we're proposing, the Mark 43 system, it is hosted in the Amazon cloud. It's the government cloud for them. That means that they have to abide by certain laws and regulations to make sure that they do that. It's not just state government or local government, it's federal government. The military has access to some of those systems as well. So it's things that are thoroughly vetted. Connectivity between us is the same requirement that DOJ and FBI require with our mobile access. It's all encrypted. Everything is set, so it requires a tremendous deal of technology and encryption to get to the system. So it is protected just as well as what we have.
And just out of curiosity, the West Covina Service Group, do you know about when they were originally established, what their origin is?
That I do not have.
I'm just curious because it seems, my recollection serves me right, that when CAD RMS systems were in their infancy, West Covina was one of the groundbreaking agencies, West Covina PD, and my recollection is that they, probably in the early 90s, were just getting CAD and RMS systems on board, and a lot of agencies ended up acquiring their services and support. So if it's the same group that founded that, they've been around a long time.
Yes.
And they've had a chance to grow with the industry, and I'm glad to see that they were wise enough to partner and put the best of both worlds together for the end user. So, good idea.
Yes.
Okay, one final comment. When you mentioned the government security and the cloud and all of that, my question is, have you read The President is Missing by James Patterson and Bill Clinton?
Yes.
It would probably keep you up at night.
It does.
It's all about cybersecurity and having a bug that just wipes out everything we have. So, yeah, gave me goosebumps.
Technology, people, and process.
Okay, with that, we have a motion and a second.
Move approval.
Second.
Please vote. And that is approved 5-0.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Scott. Items number 8, discussion and action items. Item 8A is an ordinance amending Chapter 14, Buildings and Building Regulations of the Hemet Municipal Code and adopting by reference. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but because it will be read. And we will have Sarah Rettmeyer give the staff report.
Good evening. So I'm here in conjunction with Nelson Miller and Chief Brown to bring forth the 2019 California Building Code updates for your review. Just a little background, every 3 years the code-making bodies publish a new building code. And when I say building code, it's our Title 24 documents that the state of California adopts and publishes July 1st every 3 years, and then it mandates that by January 1st of the following year, which would be 2020 for us, that the local jurisdictions throughout California have to start enforcing this code. It does give us the opportunity to amend the code, but we have to make express findings that the amendments to the building standards are necessary due to either local climatic, geological, or topographical conditions. And then it also gives us an opportunity to amend the administrative section, which is typically our administrative procedures for the city of Hemet. So typically our normal code amendments are typical every year. This year we made several cleanup and attempted to make it a little more clear for our customers to understand the full concept of what our administrative code contains. Some of the rollovers that we do every 3 years are we have to reference the council adopted fee study. We set our refund policy, penalties for doing work without getting a permit first, right to appeal, posting unsafe buildings, erosion control measures,
qualified persons that do electrical on commercial and multifamily dwelling units, and then our addressing requirements for the city. And then the most significant changes that we have this year is a few months ago, the state mandated that any residential permit that's issued now has a year to start construction, when previously it was just 180 days. And for clarity purposes, we went and taken the whole Chapter 1 out of the building residential electrical plumbing mechanical codes and put that into our municipal code, so we weren't having to go back and forth from our amendments to the code to see what was actually enforced by our department. We've gone back to allow fences that are less than 42 inches in height in residential zones to not require a permit. And then we added explicit requirements for fire sprinklers to be mandated in new mobile homes being installed within the city of Hemet, but this does not apply to mobile homes. It does not apply to mobile homes in rental parks. And then also the building earthquake safety, which you're probably familiar with, or you're in buildings, we set the minimum requirements back to be consistent with the state law. So with that, did Chief, do you want to discuss the fire sprinklers?
Thank you, Sarah. Mayor, members of the council, just to clarify, we're essentially coming back and truing up the language of the original, our last fire code. I want to emphasize how important of a first step this is for us towards dealing with those structures that are most at risk. Fire, life safety, we look at about an 82% reduction in fire fatalities in areas that have a strong sprinkler ordinance. So we stand behind this. The national trends and standards show that, and we're limiting that footprint to new mobile homes that require a foundation permit, and we're very sensitive to the cost impacts on the parts that Sarah related will not be part of this sphere, but I think it's a very important first step, and I would encourage in the years to come that we take a even more broader approach to implementation of even broader sprinkler ordinance.
So, are you saying it's implemented like on a phased approach, or like this year we're doing this and next year we'll do?
The main language we wanted to clear up as of January 2011, all manufactured mobile homes require to have sprinklers installed as part of the build.
Right.
The technicality that we're cleaning up is now the way it's written is that someone could go and purchase that same product out of state that did not have that requirement and bring that here and place it here. So that's the loophole we closed. Everything that's built after January.
It's still required regardless of where they bought it.
Right. So we're trying to make it very clear. We're trying to close that loophole and prevent that from occurring and get into alignment with the current state regulations.
Linda?
Clarification on the term not, you've got requirements for fire sprinklers in mobile homes, not in rental parks. Does that mean mobile homes that are not in a rental park, or it doesn't pertain if you're in a rental park? I'm confused.
To address that more specifically, every stick-built home, conventional construction in the city, requires fire sprinklers currently.
Right.
That's been the requirement for some time. Mobile homes that are in rental parks are subject to Title 25 of the state codes and are regulated by state housing and community development. So the permits for those are through the state. This is not affecting those. This is only affecting mobile homes that are placed on a foundation which requires a building permit.
Which would be Sierra Dawn, because it's a subdivision, not a mobile home park.
Yes.
Correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
So new homes placed in that would have to have fire sprinklers. And as Chief Brown has indicated, mobile homes manufactured in the state of California after 2011 are required to have sprinklers. So as he indicated, it's really just closing the gap for those few that might be brought in out of state, or in instances where somebody was putting a older mobile home on a foundation. So this is just making the requirements consistent
for everyone that has to get a building permit to set a mobile home down. If you're building conventional housing, you have to have fire sprinklers. We're saying it should be the same thing for mobile homes.
Anyone else? Okay.
First, with your mobile home comment about places like Sierra Dawn or in HOAs, HOAs already put stringent restrictions on what can be brought in and what can't.
Oftentimes, they're much more stringent than
And
city
they're
requirements.
going to be much newer, so they're already going to be compliant with these laws.
For the most part, yes.
That are put forth by the state. In here, I purposely printed out the red line version of this, 200 pages front and back, because when I was reading through the 2019 uniform codes that we're going to adopt as part of our ordinances state that there's minor modifications. But when I look through here, there's pages and pages and pages of red line. That to me tells me that there's more than minor changes to the code. I understand that we have to do it as part of being compliant with state law, because as state law changes and the infinite wisdom of the folks in Sacramento find it necessary to impose more and more restrictions on us, our state-appointed commissions and that need to update this codes to reflect passages of new laws. I want to point out a couple things. That the current governor's big push is for housing. California has a housing crisis. We need 1 million units more than what we currently have. We need several million, actually. But Sacramento keeps talking about affordable housing. We need affordable housing. We need affordable housing. We need affordable workforce housing. But I look at the 2011 fire sprinklers code, which I'm not opposed to fire sprinklers, because the chief and I had a conversation about fire sprinklers, and they do limit fire spread, and I get that. But it's now another mandate that increases the cost. I talked to a contractor friend of mine. The average cost is about $2 a square foot added to the price of a house. So we can do the math. If it's a 2,000 square foot house, it's going to be $4,000 more dollars. 2020, there's a new requirement for solar on properties at an average cost $4 to $6 per watt. So that adds another $10,000 to meet the minimum requirement mandated by the state. So we keep being told we need more housing. I mean, we look at LA. They've got a homeless crisis. They're beyond crisis, because they've got more homeless in LA than this entire valley has people living. But it seems like the state is continuing to mandate more and more things to make it more and more expensive for people to buy homes. And so now we're seeing the middle class being forced out of California because nobody can afford it. Then we're imposing, and I know we've got to make some changes to our code, in our municipal code, to keep up with these mandates by the state. But there's these are unfunded mandates that are being put on to builders. Yesterday, WRCOG had a meeting with a presentation of our arena numbers, and they went with option 4, which now is requiring another 12,000 housing units being built in Hemet. The problem with that is that Hemet doesn't build houses. The city does not build houses. Developers build houses. Home builders build houses. And conversations that I've had with some boutique builders is that it's becoming unaffordable for them to build homes. It's already the median price in Hemet is already the lowest in the region. The lowest in the region. San Jacinto has a higher median home price than Hemet. They're at $305. We're at $278. So it's already cheap to buy homes here. But builders aren't building in Hemet because the median price is $278. So we have, it's like the state is mandating that we do all these things to make safe, and I understand it needs to be safe. But at what point do we say, it's not my job to mandate for you to be safe? At what point people have to assume certain risks? If I buy a home that's built before 2011, it doesn't have sprinklers. I'm going to assume that risk that it's